Good morning. I'm gonna do a book unhaul today. I'm gonna try. Basically, where all the books that I want to unhaul are behind the main shelves. So we've got this one here. We've got loads of books behind there, just shoved behind there and there. These are all my new books. Catch the Feet. These are all the new ones. They're on the floor. Check that vitamin C. You better be taking your vitamins, Marianne. I'm getting really anxious that they're just on the floor all the time. It's freaking me out. I'm very claustrophobic and I don't like it. Some people make it work. They make it look really nice when the books are on the floor. I don't like this. I think it just looks cluttered and messy and it's freaking me out. And I'd really like to just see them on here. So we're going to start with this shelf. I've already started taking some things down. And let's go with the first shelf. Man, I'm tired. I'm just moving all my Stephen King shelf that was at the front just onto the bed. I'm not getting rid of any of those. That's probably never going to happen. But I thought I'd show you. I was going to do a reading vlog of this last year, like last summer, or it could have actually been last winter, I don't know. And I was reading it. I had like 50 pages left. I had the video pretty much made. Just I had to, finish the book and do the end thoughts or whatever. And then I was out one night with my friends. It was Christmas, definitely. And then I had a hot chocolate. And then I went over to my friend's house with the hot chocolate and she offered me wine. And I had wine and I had never finished my hot chocolate. And it was in like a takeaway cup. I threw my takeaway cup into my bag when I was drunk and it spilt all over my book. And I woke up the next morning and I saw this massacre and I could just never finish the book because it disgusted me too much. It looks like dried blood and it just put me off. It's very fitting with the book that it is. But it freaks me out and it still smells like chocolate. So I don't know why you need to know that, but I just thought I'd let you know that that was a video that you're never going to get. Okay, so there's only 5 books on that shelf that I want to get rid of because I'm not good at being ruthless. Here we go. First off, some of these are very popular and I have read all of them bar one. I know some of you are going to be pissed off that I'm getting rid of them and you're not going to understand why I'm getting rid of them because maybe they're one of your favorite books and I understand that, but I don't feel the need to keep them and I'll get into why. So my first one is, I actually don't know how popular this one is and I feel kind of bad getting rid of it because I've never really heard many people talk about it, so I'm like, maybe I'm missing out on a gem, but also I've had it shoved to the back of the shelves ever since the very first day that I bought it. It's A Crown for Cold Silver by Alex Marshall, and I think this is just a fantasy that was recommended to me online because, I don't know if it was because I was reading an article on books to read if you like Arya Stark, or it was something to do with Arya Stark because she is probably my favorite character of all time, but the reviews aren't great. If any of you have read this, let me know and I'll hold on to it because I feel kind of bad getting rid of it because I haven't read it, but that is going to be the theme throughout this video, I would say. Next, I have one that I read last year and it was a lovely book. I just don't see myself reading it again. It's Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I really love the way that the story was told. It's kind of told in, they're not poems, but it's like short spurts. And I think the way that it's written really worked really well for the story she was telling, but I just don't see myself reading it again. I think I gave it like a 3.75, but I'm not going to read it again. So next I have The Mothers by Britt Bennett. Again, I read this last year. No, sorry, I didn't. I read it this year. I read it at the beginning of this year. I wasn't crazy about this one. It didn't really do a lot for me, but I am really excited to read The Vanishing Half. I have, is it there? You can't see it. It's behind my B12. There. This one just, it was good, but again, I'm not going to read it again. I'm actually really scared to show any of these just because some people can be scary. Next one that I have on the shelf is the scariest one to show. Please Don't Send Me Death Threats. It's The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This was my second book of this year. I didn't like it at all. I don't get the hype personally, but if you do, that's great. Song of Achilles really fell flat for me. I didn't care about the relationship in the end. I did in the beginning. I was really invested in the beginning. And then I found the writing just went a bit weird for me. It was like, this probably only happened a couple of times, but it kind of annoyed me. It was like, this is just an example. We need to get to the top of that mountain. We have to get to that top of the mountain and it's going to be a perilous journey. And then in the next paragraph, they're at the top of the mountain. It's like, you made such a big deal out of the thought of getting to that top of the mountain and then you just skip over it. That's just an example, and a terrible one. But it's just like some things were just completely skipped over and it annoyed me, or just rushed, and that pissed me off. And I didn't like one of the main characters. In the end, I found him really annoying. Please don't try and murder me. It's just my opinion. I don't, you know, I don't like judge anyone for liking it. Like, it's not my business. But my last one then is one that I read about half of and I just couldn't get into. And I love another book by this author. I love the second book in this series, but the first one, I just couldn't finish it. It's Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Take a Hint, Danny Brown is one of my favorite books of last year. I adored it, but then I went and read this one and I just found it a bit too insta-lovey, a bit too cheesy for me. I'm not a romance reader, really. I read them every now and then, and some of them I love, and then some of them just, I'm like, why did I even, like, I knew I wasn't gonna like that, why did I even bother? A lot of people love it. I just think Take a Hint, Danny Brown is like god tier level, and I'm not gonna finish it. So there's no point keeping it, really. I don't know what I feel like people are gonna try and murder me for these comments. Like, they're not even that bad. Anyway, now I'm after doing the second shelf, but this is half, the shelf is half vinyl, so there actually weren't that many books at the back. Okay, so this next book I literally bought last week, but I started it in the car on the way to where we were going in Cork, and nope, it's The Yellow House by Patricia Falvey. Okay, now this is a book set in Ireland back in the year God knows when. We're following our main character. She falls in love with kind of like a rebel who's fighting for Ireland's independence, and this other English fella, or this like posh fella, I don't know, and he might be Irish. I can tell that this was written by a woman who lives in America. She is Irish. She lived in Ireland when she was younger, but I just get the American vibes. It was kind of like, oh, how I love me ma. Oh, Dad's coming around the corner in his pony and cart. I can see the fairies if I look close enough. I just felt like I was reading fucking Irish fan fiction, so I had to stop. Not for me. Next we have one that is probably, again, very, well, it is very popular, but I've tried to read it a few times and I couldn't get into it, and I don't think it's bad by any means. It's just, it wasn't working for me. It's The Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. I wouldn't mind, but look how pretty it is, but I don't think I'm ever going to read it, so what's the point? I started watching the show, and again, I couldn't finish it, and I love James McAvoy. He is the love of my life, but I couldn't get into it. So obviously just the story isn't for me, but I love the reflection. But no, there's no point. Next we have These Women by Ivy Pachoda. I read this at the beginning of this year and it started out really strong. It's a bit of a thrillery feminist story following a range of, well, a few different women. They're all pretty badass. I liked the women, I just didn't really like the story. I just sneezed like 18 times. I had high hopes for it, but it kind of disappointed me just a little bit. It's not bad by any means. If it's on your shelf, I still recommend you read it, but I'm not going to reread it, so. Next, I have The Diary of a Bookseller by Sean Bythell. I've tried it a few times over the years. I think I bought it like 2 years ago, and can't get into it. I have a really bad habit of starting books, not liking them, and going, oh, but I might like it when I'm 30. Bitch, who cares? You'll read other books when you're 30. Like, what the fuck? The last one I have off this shelf is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I read this last year during a mental breakdown, and I enjoyed it a lot. I gave it a 4 out of 5, but I'm not going to reread it. I really don't think that I will. And also there was a lot of talk about religion. I'm not really religious at all. I did underline things, so I feel kind of bad giving it to the charity shop like I've written in it. But it looks pretty though. But I have written in it. It is when we lose control that we repress the emotions, not when we are in control. So true, bestie. I'm doing this shelf. Alright, first book is The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. I heard Tom Hanks was in the movie. I've never watched the movie, but I like Tom Hanks. I'm not going to read it. I bought it about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I'm not going to read it. Okay, next I have one I've had on my shelf for years and I've meant to get to for years, and then just as the years have gone on, more and more people have said that they don't like it, so I'm not going to read it. It's A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This is stunning. This is stunning, but who cares if people don't like it. Also, I started the series, me and my mom watched the first episode, we didn't care for it, so No point. Next, I have a couple of thrillers that I have not read, but I don't really read thrillers anymore, so I'm not going to get to them. When I say thrillers, I mean like wife suspects husband is cheating on her. She goes insane and loses her mind and has a mental breakdown, and he finds a new woman, has kids with that woman, marries her, and the woman that he was originally married to is left behind in the dust. I've read so many of those now, I just don't care anymore. It's the same story every time. Husband's Secret by Leanne Moriarty. I've heard a lot about Leanne Moriarty, good and bad, about her books, not her. I'm not gonna read it. And then the other one is Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, another one that I've heard a lot of good and bad things about her books. Actually, I know who I should give these to. My friend Lily loves thrillers, so I'm gonna give them to Lily. I don't think Lily watches my videos, but if you do, Lily, they're coming for you. Sorry, I didn't even paint them in a good light, but it's just, there's nothing, I haven't heard any bad things about these books. I don't read thrillers like this anymore. The kind of thrillers I read are like Stephen King, gore, blood, horror, murder, vampires, ghosts, seances, Ouija boards, that kind of thing. Last one that I have is The Tiger's Daughter by Kay Arsenault Rivera. I haven't read this. I tried to, I think, and it was confusing me. I was probably about 18 and I'm a dumb bitch, so I never finished it. Also, it got bent. I can't remember how, but it just put me off. So there we are, kids. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sorry that I'm in a bit of a, not in a mood, I'm fed up. I only did 3 shelves out of 6, so if you'd be interested in a part 2, let me know. And I'll do it. If not, put me in my place. Say, literally nobody asked for that. Go away. And I will. So let me know what you guys are currently reading. I'll show you what I'm reading. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Tessa Moshfegh, which is literally about a woman who is so depressed that she goes to her doctor and asks to be put to sleep for a year. Yeah, I'm living for it. I'm only about 34 pages in, 35 pages in, but I'm really enjoying it. I really like the main character. She's very unlikable but relatable. And then I'm also reading The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enriquez. I'm reading this for Women in Translation Month. This will be the 3rd book that I've read for it. It's translated from Spanish. The other 2 books that I read for Women in Translation Month are The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante and Miss Ice Sandwich by Miko Kawakami. Enjoying both of these very, very much. Let me know what you're currently reading. Like I said, what's on your TBR? What are you reading for Women in Translation Month? I'm really interested to see what people are reading, because I feel like a lot of us are all reading the same thing. Elena Ferrante, this, and like Hiromi Kawakami. But let me know, because I forgot. Bye, children of the cook.